Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Coming Up Milhouse. Today we have a special appearance by Dan Holohan, and we are doing this live via Zoom. So social distancing at its best.
And I'm your first guest, right? I'm realizing.
You are.
I'm touched.
First guest versus Zoom, so welcome.
Yep, I'm guessing that you will probably make a regular appearance from time to time.
I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
That would be good.
So today we are talking about season 3 of The Simpsons, episode 1, which is called Mr. Lisa Goes to Washington. George, would you like to give an update on what this episode is about?
Yes, it's pretty funny. So as the episode opens, Homer gets a letter from like a publisher's clearinghouse kind of thing, and he believes that he won $1 million. So he goes to the bank to cash it, and they gently explain to him that no, he's not a millionaire now, and he gets upset. But as a consolation prize, he gets a copy of a magazine that's a play on Reader's Digest, and they call it Reading Digest. And for some odd reason, he gets sucked into this. He's not a reader, but in this case he is, and he starts reading all these articles, and he gets enamored with it. And one of the stories or articles in it is a essay contest for kids, and the prize would be to go to Washington, D.C. and compete in an essay contest if you win locally. And so Lisa sees this and decides she's going to enter, so she writes an essay and competes in the local section of it and does well and ends up getting to go to Washington, D.C. But when she gets there, she finds a little bit of corruption, a little bit of things that aren't quite kosher to her, and a few problems ensue from that. And that's the basic plot premise behind this one. Some funny stuff happens as a result.
Yeah, I like this one. I just watched it like a couple of weeks ago. Just randomly. It was like I haven't watched The Simpsons in a while, and I just started at season 3. So I was already like ready to go on this.
Perfect. Great. Season 3 has a lot of good ones, and it starts off good with this one. So, yeah.
So for those of you who are joining us, we will have this posted on YouTube, and the subscribe button will be down in the lower corner of the screen. So feel free to subscribe to this channel, give us a like, write comments, share your favorite lines, all of those things in the comments below, and we are happy to have you here. So Dan, do you have a first favorite line that you would like to share?
Yeah. So I had 2 actually, but the one that I don't know, I like. Homer and the Reading Digest is great. Like my first one was when he quotes Tolstoy. I'm like, I don't even know if it's a Tolstoy quote. I didn't bother to look. I probably should have. But when he says, "Give me learning, sir, and you may keep your black bread." When Lenny asks him if he wants to come to lunch, I don't know. It just Homer quoting Tolstoy, and Homer also reading over choosing food is.
Yes.
It's something that I appreciated very much.
I did as well. George,
very out of character for Homer.
Yeah. George, do you have a favorite first line?
Yes. So my favorite first line is a little bit later when they are in the competition, and Homer meets a representative of the Reading Digest group that is running this contest for Lisa. And he says something like, "Ooh, I love your magazine. It's really increased my word skills. It is really, really good."
That was almost my first choice.
Yeah, that is a classic Homerism. You know, he just, I got good, I increased my skills, and anything he can come up with is good. That was funny to me.
I feel like if I was in that position, though, I would do the same thing. Like, if someone put me on the spot to be like, "Hey, I'm reading this thing and it's teaching me all these new words." "Oh yeah, what'd you learn?"
A lot.
Words. Cool.
Yeah.
Decent. All right, Gail, what's your first line?
So one of my favorites. There were again so many great lines in this, and I wrote down several. But look, Marge, a shoehorn, just like you see in the movies. Shoe goes on, shoe goes off. Shoe goes on, shoe goes off.
I love that one. That's great.
Funny.
Again.
He's easily amused, right?
So what about the second favorite line, Dan?
So for me, I'm not sure that I got the kid's name right, but I think his name is Tron, like the speaker.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The kid that wins the contest.
Yeah.
So he's like opening of his speeches. When my family first arrived, wait a minute. When my family first arrived in this country, I missed a part of it, but first arrived in this country 4 months ago, we spoke no English and had no money in our pockets, and now we own a nationwide chain of wheel balancing centers. Like,
they did all that in 4 months.
I feel like a slacker.
Dig it. That's funny.
That's good. George, what about your second?
All right, so when they're in Washington, D.C., they get to go around to all these different museums and stuff, and they go to the Mint, and there's all this money being printed, and they're looking down on it, and the tour guys says something like, "We print thousands of dollars a day, but sorry, we don't give out free samples," and everybody laughs, and then Homer's all crestfallen, and he's like, "Lousy, cheap country." Because I guess he thought he was going to get samples, but he didn't.
Yeah.
So
we got cheated out of that $1 million.
Yeah,
Right,
he just wanted that money. He didn't get it in either way.
Very money-driven episode.
Yeah.
For sure.
What's your number two, Gail?
My number two is, this isn't like burying toxic waste. People are going to notice if all those trees are cut down.
Yeah, that crooked congressman is really something.
I know.
Mhm.
It's a great ask for Lisa to fight this episode.
Yeah.
The satire is like on point in this one. The
Absolutely.
political satire is so good. Yeah.
Absolutely. What about favorite scenes, guys?
Dan, go for it.
So mine is when Homer is reading in bed and Marge wants to snuggle, and he's like, "Oh, wait a minute," and he goes and he starts reading the 7 Ways to Spice Up Your Marriage. He says, "Marge, you have a nice body," and then the other one is like, "If you want me to wear a costume, just ask." I don't know, that one, like, the whole phenomenon of Homer reading is so great to me. And like
reading in bed, and and Marge just looked at him and it was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
Oh, good stuff.
And he clearly had that article dog-eared for reference for later.
He was ready for it, yeah.
Good scene. George, what about your favorite scene?
All right, so mine is when Lisa gives her first reading of her essay, and it's really good, and the judges are like, that was a little too good. Methinks maybe the father had something to do with it. And so the lady goes to Homer, and she's like, "Are you a professional writer?" And he's like, Are you interested in politics? Are you interested in anything? Can you touch your nose, please? And he can't touch his nose. And then the lady's like, "Oh, okay, so I guess Lisa did write this thing." Just that made me laugh so much. So I picked that one.
Okay.
Another example of his increased word power.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And he can't even touch his nose.
So brilliant. Mine is the entire trip to Washington. The plane ride was fantastic. Bart ends up going into the cockpit because he's acting a fool and making the guy behind him really angry. So he's rewarded to go hang out in the cockpit. And then he presses the button that basically is the panic button, and all of the masks come down and Homer screams. Continuing into when they land and they arrive at the airport and they walk by a limo with a man holding a sign that says The Simpsons, and Homer says, "Oh, look, they have the same last name as we do." Just continues to walk on and get a taxi to Washington, which is pretty clever and classic.
Yeah.
Classic Homer.
Very Homer-like.
Yep. So, any other favorite scenes that you guys want to throw in there?
I just like the scene with Lisa at the Jefferson Memorial, and how he's just so salty that nobody comes to visit him. I don't know. I was a fan of that. He's like, all I ever did was write the Declaration of Independence. And it was funny. I love that scene.
I did.
Everybody went to Lincoln and wouldn't go to Jefferson.
Yeah.
I know what your problem is. The Lincoln Memorial was full.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually have that down as a second scene, so it was between those two that I was juggling. So that works. And then we usually do winners of the episode and losers of the episode. Do you have a winner of the episode, Dan?
Yeah. My winner is actually I said Bart and Homer, because they got like Homer was super mad that Bart was getting a massage and got his clothes dry cleaned and stuff, and then Bart's like, wait, this trip is all expenses paid. And then the next scene is Homer getting a massage, smoking a stogie, and so I think they came out on top for this one.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
That's good. One of my alternate favorite lines is, "I'll room service you." So that goes with it.
Do you have a favorite scene, or a winner, George?
My winner is All of America. And that is because when Lisa reveals all this corruption going on, the system works. They get the senator, they put him in a hearing, and they fire him, and the president gets involved, and they do all this within like 2 hours.
Yep.
And everything works out, and Lisa made America great again, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
So All of America wins in this one.
That's pretty good. I also went with Homer for a winner because it just seemed like his episode. He was elevated at work when, he shares that he's reading, and Lenny just kind of walks in and is really confused in the lunch scene. And then Mr. Burns asks, "Who is that bookworm, Smithers?" And so he gets extra bonus points with his boss. And then he found a way to have family time and read with the family, and they went a trip to Washington, D.C., and he has all of those great experiences there, including the massage scene that Dan mentioned. So, yeah, I think Homer's a winner in this one, for sure. And then what about losers?
My loser was Santa's Little Helper, because he got sat on in the couch gag.
Couch gag? Excellent.
Good one. You are the first person of any of us doing these to mention the couch gag on the episode. So good job. 'Cause you get a prize. You get the couch gag prize. Good stuff. So my loser goes back to a scene you mentioned, Dan, the Thomas Jefferson. I made Thomas Jefferson was the loser because no one comes to see him, and everyone goes to see Lincoln. And it's even better because when Lisa turns around and walks away, he's like, "Please don't go. I get so lonely." So that Thomas Jefferson Memorial was the loser in this one.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
That's good. I went with the piano player at the award ceremony because it was awful. He was doing such a terrible job, and really it was just awful, and probably going to be an earwig in my head for the rest of the weekend for sure.
Yeah.
And then also because Bart used his slingshot and hit him with a rock or whatever he used in his slingshot. So I
wondered if that guy was supposed to be somebody like from early 90s politics, like Grover Norquist or something.
Right.
I don't know why that was the name that popped into my head, but it was. And I looked up the song, and they just all it says is like on the one of the Simpsons wikis, it just had like the lyrics. It didn't have any other information. So I think it was just some rando.
So you looked up the lyrics, and therefore it's really going to be in your head for the rest of the weekend?
I didn't read the lyrics. As soon as I realized that was all the info was, I was like, no, go back.
Get me out of here. Mm-hmm. Great. Any other points you would like to discuss about this episode?
Yeah, so I'm curious what you guys thought of this. Did Homer just get one magazine? or did he get a free subscription and had different issues through the episode? You think
No,
he just got one?
At some point, I think he just said he got this one free magazine, and then
okay.
He folded it and tried to stick it in his pocket, and so yeah, I think they just got one free magazine, and of course, it was chock full of random articles.
He got a lot of use out of it.
Absolutely. Oh, good. I got nothing more to add other than it was a fun episode, and I like the satire, like I said before, just the political, making fun of the political scene in Washington. You can't do bad with that. And then also the title is a shout out to Frank Capra, Jimmy Stewart classic, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Yeah. Instead, we get Mr. Lisa Goes to Washington. So I like that too.
Yeah.
Lisa's one of my favorites. So it was a very Lisa heavy episode, which I appreciated.
So I am not a fan of the Lisa heavy episodes. Like, I think like most people, I love the Homer heavy episodes, but as Lisa episodes go, this one was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it.
I mean, sometimes she gets a little too much, but overall, I love nature. You guys know that, so it struck my heart a little bit. So it's good. Because season 3 is such a great season, we will probably likely be continuing in succession with season 3, episode 2 for next week. And at some point, we are going to run into one of the episodes that we already covered in this show. So we'll just skip over that. But Dan, I'm happy that you joined us, and you are welcome to join us to talk about The Simpsons at any point in time.
Thanks, it's fun.
Good.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
And now, at the closing of our show, we have to do our normal send-off. So are you guys ready? It's a little more complicated in Zoom.
I don't remember.
Jiminy Jillikers.
Jiminy Jillikers.
Should we do that all together now?
Okay.
We'll say until the next time, and then we say it. So until the next time, Jiminy Jillikers.
Okay, we are recording. Here he is. You guys ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Ready when you are.